Good evening, everyone. We are Today's Thursday, the 8th of October, and I have been asked to do a few sessions with you on financial literacy. Tonight being our first session, and the first topic will be basic financial management. I think next week, no, Thursday, we'll be working on access to funding. And then we were meant to have two more sessions, but we've condensed it in one because of the documentary on the 15th. So tonight, I always say, like my grandmother used to tell me, good manners cost nothing. So I always have a few house rules when we start anything. So I will guide you through the presentation first. I have allocated enough time at the end for discussions, questions, and to show everybody can participate and gain the most out of tonight's session. Respect and sensitivity. Understanding finance can be very challenging, and we all come from diverse backgrounds with varying degrees of familiarity. So please, let's be supportive and respectful towards each other's experiences and questions. Questions and clarifications. If something isn't clear or you need further explanation during the presentation, I would appreciate if you just press the raise your hand button. I'll do my best to answer immediately. However, if it requires more detailed response, I will note it down and get back to you later. Privacy. Privacy is very important tonight, okay? So should you need to share any personal or sensitive information, I would encourage you to do so through a private message to myself or the facilitator. This will help in maintaining your confidentiality. Support and empowerment, which is what tonight is about. Tonight, I don't want you to look at it as a boring PowerPoint presentation. I know you all finished work this evening, you're tired, this is the last thing you want to do. So let us use this opportunity to learn, to support, and to empower each other. Every question or insight you share tonight, it enriches our collective understanding. Even myself who's doing this presentation, there is still so much I have to learn about financial literacy, and I continue to learn. At the end of the presentation, I will provide you with details as to how to contact me for any additional resources or further assistance you might need. Unfortunately, I'm not available via WhatsApp because I have a very busy schedule, but I do have an email address that I normally leave and I do respond. Those of you who've met me before on the TCOZs will know that when you reach out, I do respond and give support wherever I can. So I'd like to thank you for your attention, and I'd like to say, let's have a productive session focused on empowering ourselves through improved financial literacy. So welcome. Welcome to my sisters in St. Lucia, in St. Kitts and Nevis, and in St. Vincent. Sandy did an introduction of myself, but I think that she was, I'm not sure. I'm just me. I'm just Davy Daniel. No one special. I'm just like every one of you. I am a mother, a wife, a full-time employee with 3 full-time jobs, perhaps, and an entrepreneur. I have a passion for financial literacy because I grew up with my grandmother, and she was a farmer, and I have always admired her strength, her tenacity, her resilience, for being able to empower us through education. But she taught us some basic lessons in financial literacy, which I still carry on today, and I have passed on to my children, I would hope. Today, as we embark on this journey of financial empowerment, our goal is to equip you with the knowledge and the skills necessary to take control of your financial future. Today, let's not just talk about money, but let's empower ourselves with the knowledge and all the necessary tools we need for our financial destinies. We are here to learn, grow, support each other in the journey towards financial empowerment. So, why financial literacy? Why? Today, I want to focus especially on personal finances. The reason being is that I know a lot of you are here, you either have agro businesses, you have businesses. So normally I find when I come into these presentation settings, a lot of people are quick and want to be able to find out how they can improve their business, how they can get loans, how they can get funding, how they can write a proposal, how can they write a financial statement. And while all these things are important, What I want you all to remember is if you cannot look after your personal finances, you're not going to do well at business finances. You have to be able to learn about basic financial literacy in your own personal finances for you to be able to manage. And it's not just about managing, maintaining, and keeping a business. So today I'm focusing primarily on personal finances. I have another session for you on business, on what it'll take you to start a business. I'm helping you with funding for the business, with banking for the business. So please just bear with me. And I hope you can take a little bit about what I'm saying here today and implement it back into your personal lives. So the foundation of financial empowerment in farming begins with understanding basic things: budgeting, expense tracking, and financial forecasting. Women in agriculture need to be able to read financial statements to make more informed decisions about your farming options, your personal options, your home life. Um, Everyone has four basic components in their financial structure. That's your assets. I'm not sure how many of you know what assets are, so I'm not going to presume that everybody knows, but your assets are what you own. What you own. So your car can be an asset whilst you can still have a liability on it. Your home can be an asset whilst there's still a liability on it. The asset part is the part that you actually have paid off, and the liability part is the part that you actually still owe the bank. What your debts are, what your income is, and what your expenses are. Measuring these and comparing them can help you determine the state of your finances and your current net worth. So one of the first things I always ask people is, do you know your income? Some people will tell you, yes, I know my income. I get paid $2,000 a month. But is that really your income? That's how much you get paid. But as we all know in the Caribbean, a lot of us live basic day-to-day, hand-to-mouth. The credit union has a salary assignment, the government has one, the insurance has one. So how much money do you really get? What is your income? And you might be surprised that at the end of this, that your income isn't very much. So I always ask to sit down and see what your income is. And we will talk a little bit later about how you can find different income sources. That's where the entrepreneurship in you will come out. If you have one income and it's not sufficient, think about having two. And it doesn't have to not be sufficient. You could always have a secondary income, regardless of having one income that is sufficient. It's all or nothing if you know how much you bring home after taxes and any withholding taxes. It's always a good idea to know what you bring home, right? The next thing I would say is that a budget. How many people here do a budget? It would be interesting if you can just put in the chat group how many of you actually do a budget. Just say yes or no, just so that I can have an idea. So when I come to showing you the budget, I can share some information with you. How many of you all actually do a budget? Sorry, I can't see the. Andy, are they putting stuff in the chat group? Because I can't see. I'm not sure why.
Yes, they are.
Okay. Let me see if I can log on to newsletter solution.
I could give you that figure in a minute, sir.
No problem. Okay, I can see. So I see some people say yes, some people say no. And this is not a pass or fail question. I did not do a budget for years of my life, so I'm not here to judge, and neither should anybody. How many of you all who are self-employed pay yourself first? That's another important question. And I'll come back to it and I'll explain to you why. If you're self-employed, do you pay yourself? Some strategies in terms of finance. Have you ever considered limiting or reducing your debt, and how you can go about doing that? A little later, I will also show you a calculator, which is used by most of the banks in the Eastern Caribbean, a formula for them to be able to calculate loans. And I will show you how you can, by paying amounts directly to your principal, when you've assured that there's no penalty on early repayment, how you can actually pay off your debt quicker. One other thing is that how many of us only borrow what we can repay? So another common thing in the Caribbean is that a lot of these are popping up a lot lately, like the payday loans, and we never ask how much the interest rate is. And we borrow money. And for instance, I know, for instance, a lot of government workers, I don't know specific for countries, but because they have what we consider quote unquote a steady job. If you went to courts or you went to a place that does hire purchase, they're not particularly going to deny you the hire purchase because they definitely know you cannot afford it. They're only concerned about the salary assignment because they know you have an assured job. But have you taken some time to sit down and look and say, I cannot afford this, or can I afford it? So I will show you some metrics in how you can determine and discipline yourself whether or not you can afford it, and alternative ways as to how maybe you can purchase this thing without getting yourself into debt. Planning for the future. How many of you have sat down and thought, I am 30 years old, I'm 26 years old, I'm 45 years old. What plans do I have for myself financially for the future? Do I have a retirement plan? Am I saving towards that? What are your plans for the future? If I were to fall ill, if I was sick, if I lost a limb, a leg, and this is not calling anything bad on you. This is just allowing you to think. Finances is not just for today as to how you eat, how you go on vacation. It should and must be for when you're ready to retire in the eventuality of something happens. And lastly, one of the things I would like to touch on is insurance. Insurance is not for everybody, but insurance can be a good thing if you do it properly, if you find out what you're getting covered for, if you weigh the risk. So as we go on, I will speak about these things with you, okay? The objectives of this evening is, again, just understanding financial planning, looking at grasping the basics of credit. Credit can be a friend or foe, but today we'll learn how it works and how to use it wisely and how to ensure it helps you rather than hurt you. Lending and borrowing smartly. We will discuss the ins and outs of lending, borrowing, focusing on how to do so responsibly to avoid common pitfalls. Effective management of your financing. Managing your finances can be overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. We'll cover some straightforward strategies as to how to keep you on track. Crafting a savings plan. Every great financial plan starts with a savings plan. We'll talk about how to develop a savings plan that works for you and your family. Impact on your life events on your finances. So again, I spoke a little bit about that earlier. We look at how certain events like marriages, illness, the loss of a job can impact your financial health and how to prepare for them. Addressing financial abuse. I try not to focus too much on that, but that's something that I think everybody should be aware of. And I will speak about it in a little bit more detail, but not detail that it will overpower everything. Financial abuse is reality for many people, often hidden in gender biasness. I'll shed some light on the critical issue and explore ways to recognize and address it. Overcoming financial challenges. Challenges are part of life, but they don't have to define your financial future. We'll discuss strategies to overcome these obstacles and how you possibly can thrive. Investing may be complex, but it's a key aspect of wealth building. We'll break down the basics and explain how you can start no matter how small. It's important to know where you stand. So I'll guide you through understanding your current financial situations and any steps you need to make towards planning for a better financial background. I'll see how I can help you in developing an action plan. Knowledge alone isn't enough. Action is required. So no matter what I tell you today, no matter what you learn, and every time I do these things, I get the same thing. People listen, they're excited, but do they ever go back and actually put this in place? I do this thing and I have 120 women, and maybe 2 people will message me back. And I'm not saying everybody needs my help and they can go other places, but I would really hope that more people unless nobody needs it and everybody is doing fine. But the statistics shows otherwise. So I would hope that whatever little you take out of today, that you develop a plan, you try and stick to it, and you will be more equipped to make some informed financial decisions going forward. Okay. So we spoke again in little details about financial literacy. So these are some of the reasons why you should have financial literacy, why everybody should have some basic knowledge about finances. We're not talking about maths and one is two. We're talking about um, looking at giving you the autonomy to make decisions based on information that you have. So for instance, I recently came across one of the local banks here in St. Lucia offering a new credit card. And the minimum rate for it is the minimum they're giving you the card for is $1,000. Now, a lot of people are excited about it because $1,000 or anybody is going to get it, and that's fine. They probably give anybody. Oh, and before we go forward, when we get to the question times, I do not answer specific questions about banks because I don't work for the bank. So I'm not willing to advertise for them. Neither am I willing to um, basically bash them or so what's good or not good about them. But if you do email me privately and you have a question about a specific thing, I will try and direct you to somebody who can assist you, if that makes sense. But anyway, this bank started this new thing and it's $1,000 and everybody's excited about it. So I was speaking to one of my somebody at that bank and I said, listen, so this thing is $1,000. You're going to give it to all these young people, but what is the interest rate? And you'd be interested to note that the interest rate is actually higher than a normal credit card that they offer. So these are the little things I want to be able to equip you with, to ask those questions before you take credit, to be able to see how it affects you. It's exciting to take $1,000, but will you be able to pay back $1,000 every month? And if you're not, are you willing to pay the interest rate of 21, 22% on it? And when you look at what 21 or 22% is on $1,000, it may not seem like much, but over time it builds up with the charges, with the interest, with the late payment fees. So always consider what the interest rates are. Ask questions. Do not let people sign you up for things or bully you into taking it. And there's always another way. Okay. So making informed decisions with a solid foundation in financial literacy, women can be equipped to navigate the complexities of budgeting, savings, investments, and borrowing. That knowledge will translate into better financial outcomes, paving the way for a brighter future. By understanding financial products and services, as women, we can shield ourselves from predatory practices. And some of those predatory practices I spoke about is like the loan shark behavior. We have some companies now that are positioning themselves at bus stops. They go on road trips and they're telling you, come and get the credit card. Anything that's too good to be true, it definitely is. So one of these places, I know for a fact their interest rates are like 33%. Do you know what 33% is? For every dollar I borrow, you have to pay me back that dollar plus 30 cents. That's exorbitant. So I want you to be aware of these predatory practices by some financial lending. And it always severely affects women who are more vulnerable, who who probably appear to need the money more than anybody else. So I want you to ensure that you ask questions. If you're not sure, you seek support from your coordinators, from Helen's daughters even. Ask questions, ask for advice so that you can make a informed choice to protect your hard-earned resources. This knowledge is a powerful tool against exploitation. The other thing the loan sharks are starting to do is when you want loans that are bigger than an amount, and let's say, for instance, you have a car that's paid off, or a home that's paid off, or some inheritance your family gave you, there's some of them who will ask you to give them these items as security. And the moment you falter, you're going to lose your stuff. So be mindful of these things. Never be too desperate to borrow. It's never that bad. Seek help like organizations or ask questions or see how you can help. There might be some fund or something that can support you in your time of need. Okay? Um, By understanding financial products, yeah, we went through that one already. Financial education instills confidence. It empowers you to tackle financial challenges head on. This sense of self-worth resilience is crucial in building a robust community where everyone can thrive. So being financially literate is not only about yourself, it should be about your family, it should be about your communities. So those of you all who have children who may be struggling, um, I always remember that my grandmother struggled, and my thing was that I wanted to do better and be better than her. And in terms of finances, and I want my kids to do even better than me. Some of us live in communities where we organize, um, community events, community activities. If you are financially literate, you are able to better bound a community too. So your skill sets can go hand in hand to improve not just your lives, but the lives of everybody around you. Okay. Financially literate women play a vital role in driving economic growth and development. Your contributions resonate throughout the communities, creating a ripple effect on everybody. Just what I said. Women are empowered to make sound financial investments for their family, health, education, and overall well-being. These responsibilities often fall on us as women in the household. So it's imperative that we have some kind of financial information to be able to make decisions, right? So by championing financial literacy among girls, women, we are hoping to have a transformative effect, right? We are equipping generations with the tools they need to make financial choices, ensuring a legacy of empowerment, right? A solid understanding of investments and wise expenses, managing women to build wealth efficiently, right? This skill set is essential. Overcoming the cycle of poverty. So I remember one time a professor of mine at university said to me that um, being poor is a mindset. you know it really can appear like that sometimes. Even when I don't have a penny, I feel like I'm the richest woman. So I want you all to think that if you people might think that you are poor, but if you are have some form of financial literacy and you equip with the knowledge to make informed decision, you can actually break that cycle of perceived poverty that everyone assumes that you, your community, your family may be in. And that is where it comes in creating pathways to prosperity, not just for yourself, but for the generations ahead. When you look at the families in your communities, in your countries who are doing well, they have equipped themselves and their families with financial literacy, which is why they're able to continue that generation of financial wealth. So again, making financial decisions can create legacies, right? Together, we can all build a foundation of economic empowerment that uplifts our communities and inspires generations to come. So, I think the boring part was out of the way. I hope so. So, financial planning. When you hear financial planning, what comes to your mind? I mean, people think it's mundane and you have to sit down and write a whole passage or paragraph as well, but really it isn't, right? The process of financial planning typically involves looking at things like investments, taxation, savings, retirement planning, estate planning, insurance. Ensuring a holistic approach to managing and growing your wealth. So things people don't think about is tax. So there's a tax component for everything. And again, in preparing for this presentation tonight, I had to look at the different Caribbean countries, and most of us really are the same. So, for instance, when you buy a house, you sell it, there's taxes you have to pay to the government. You understand there's certain fees you have to pay. Um, a lot of people don't think about making wills. And again, that's something, if you guys have not thought about it, I'd like to encourage you. This is something that will protect your financial legacy and to decide that whatever you have worked for, where you want it to go to. A lot of Caribbean families, people actually pass away and leave their kids with more debt and saddle them with debt and burdens, more so that would be of their detriment than their benefit. So ensure that you have a conversation with somebody about making a will. You don't actually have to go to a lawyer to make a will. Um, You can write a will, a handwritten will, and you can get two people to sign it, and it is just as valid as if you went to a lawyer. So while a lawyer will probably structure it and construct it in a legal term that leaves less for ambiguity, but you can handwrite something and get two people to witness it, and it will have the same effect in court as it does. So I applaud all of you all who do have something that you need to protect, to start making looking at things to be able to do things like that. I know that sounds morbid, but we have to think about those things because we are all here just passing through. Okay. So financial planning, like I said, is just really important, but you have to be able to have goals. What goals do you have for yourself? Do you want to buy a car? Do you want to buy a house? Do you want to get a degree? Do you want to start a business? What about starting a retirement plan? How many you have kids? We tend to wait when our kids are ready to go off to university and then we realize we can't afford it. But genuinely, if when our kid was born, we put aside a savings account and no matter what happened, we put $100 in it a month. You know how much that would amount to by the time the kid is 18 and they're ready to go to university? So I want you guys to think about that. Financial goal setting should happen from early on. It doesn't always happen because we don't have the financial literacy attainments to do it. It's never too late to start. Whether you're 50 today, you're 47, you're 60, you can start. Make a financial goal. It doesn't have to be something big. Make it something attainable. Commit yourself to it and see it through. And then you'll find it'll be easier to do the next one and the next one and the next one, right? The planning process. In setting the goal, you would first have to evaluate your current financial status, right? So you define your goals, look at where your income's coming from, plan for all your, not plan, sorry, take pen and paper and write down your expenses. Sometimes we tell ourselves, so we go to the bank and the loan officer sits with us and says, tell me what your expenses are. And then you say electricity, light, water. You give the basics, but then you forget how much food you buy out. Then you forget that you order from Shein so much that you don't even have money. So what I'm saying is that go through the simple things that you spend money on every day. Be honest to yourself and decide whether or not you can afford to move on. And if you can't, cut back on some things. That is all part of the planning process. Okay? Take control of your finances, right? Some people will say, oh, I'm too young to have a financial plan. No, you're not. I'm too old to have a financial plan. No, you're not. Only rich people make financial plans. Absolutely not. People get rich by making financial plans. So that depends on where on the scale you want to be. So make a financial plan. Seek help along the way if you need to keep to it. Find out ways where you can change. You have to constantly reevaluate a plan because a plan is not, it cannot be something that will always be one way. You are not stagnant. Things happen in your life. We spoke earlier about challenges, illness, a death, marriage, a divorce. So many things can happen that will shift that financial plan. Okay. Interest rates. I have a dislike for um how should I put it? Some financial institutions who I feel, like I said earlier, have predatory behaviors as it pertains to interest rates. Um, Particularly for people who will pay back the money and who needs the money the most. And most times and oftentimes that's women. So you go to a traditional bank and you ask for a loan for something and they ask you all this nonsense. What they will not ask you, I will not tell you, right? But then it comes down to they don't want to borrow you. You're probably more at risk, but yes, you are risk. But the way financial institutions look at borrowing money is that, and I always say that, banks in particular borrow to people who they know have money. But people who have money don't necessarily need money. It's people who don't have who need a helping hand to get them to where they go. So I will talk to you about alternate ways of financing your own things. And before I move on, I will give you one small example. Let me see what's the next, what we go into next. Effective management, budgets, tracking. Okay. An online banking. I'll give you one example of how maybe you can help yourself. So for instance, a lot of us like to have savings in the credit union. And you can make notes or ask questions in the chat group, and I will come back to you about it. I'm seeing some of the questions already. Let us just use hypothetically, you have $5,000 in the credit union. The credit union is paying you 5% interest. Now, the credit unions, traditionally, their lending rates are more, but it's actually easier to get a loan from the credit union because you have shares, you are members, their criteria is a little bit less stringent than the bank, which is not necessarily a good thing. The bank, you'll get a better interest rates, but they are very rigid in their debt to income ratio, in the documents that they need. And it's not always their fault because the people who work at the banks in the Caribbean are really puppets. They are not allowed to make decisions based on what they see. And very rarely they will break the rules to be able to accommodate somebody. So the credit unions tend to have a little bit more leeway, but you pay for it in the cost of borrowing. But without sidetracking, let's go back. You have $5,000 in the credit union and they're paying you, I don't think they pay 5%, let's say 4% interest. And you want a loan for 4,000. The credit union will tell you they will give you the loan for 4,000. Don't use your money. Don't use your money. Leave your money there because you like to see the money. So you borrow 4,000 from the credit union, or let's say 5, the exact amount that you have. But the credit union will lend it to you at 10%, right? They're paying you 4% and they lend into you at 10%. So tell me, how does that make mathematical sense? You're already out 6%. What you could have done is borrow yourself the money at 6% and discipline yourself to pay it back. So you're paying yourself an interest rate less than what the credit union would charge you. You're using your own money. Because the credit union essentially is using your own money to borrow you. So they are paying you 4, and then you are paying them 10. So really, you out 6% if you look at it from that perspective. But many people don't look. They figure, oh, I have the money. I want to see the money in the bank. What good is the money in the bank to you if you are able to discipline yourself and borrow it? And then that 6% interest you put, you leave it there, and the next time you can maybe borrow a little bit more. A lot of my own entrepreneurial and lending thing has been me for the last 5 years borrowing my business's money, and it has worked superbly well for me. I don't think it's for everybody. I'm not encouraging everybody to do it, but a conversation can be had about it. If you have any questions about it, you can ask me, okay? But I don't think it's for everybody. I'm just saying, sometimes you have to look at how detrimental something will be to you, especially when people have predatory lending behaviors, okay? So now it's 6:41. So can I take a few questions if you all have any? Let me just see. Okay, so as it pertains to the budgeting, I cannot see how many people answered, but a lot of people said yes, so I'm happy about that. I don't pay myself first as yet. That's Missy Lybox. When the business is able to afford to pay, I will. But Missy Lybox, listen to the conundrum with this. You say that the business can't afford to pay you, and I'd be interested to speak with you even after this happens, or when we speak about the business finances next time. If you hired me to do the same work that you are doing, would you be able to tell me the business can't afford to pay me? No. So why are you telling yourself you can't afford to pay yourself? Then that means your business is not making money and you're not doing very well. So again, I'll have a conversation with you about that. You always pay yourself when you're self-employed. If you're not able to do that, then perhaps you're not doing something right. And we can again guide you and help you with that. Is it possible to see the presenter face to face? Miss Gopal Joseph, my camera was not working, but I will try and show you me in a little bit. I'm sorry, the bandwidth with the camera and the presentation sometimes does not work, but I'm gonna try my best. If not this time, you will definitely see me next time, okay? Somebody said something maybe in St. Lucia, not Vinci, so it would be interesting to know what did you say. Does St. Lucia have living trust? In St. Lucia, you can have living trust. Again, it's how you do it. But there is facilities within our constitution, our laws for you to be able to do that. Wills, can they be proprietary independent of a lawyer? Definitely they can. Many things a lawyer can do. The reason why lawyers are able to do it is because there's this perception that we can't do it ourselves. But legally, the same way you can go to court and represent yourself, the same way you can file papers against somebody against yourself. You just have to learn and know the process. And most times it's tedious, so you do it for a lawyer. But my experience in St. Lucia and the way lawyers operate, sometimes it's best you do it yourself. But yes, it's possible to probate a will on your own. It might be a little bit more difficult because the lawyers would know the process. But yes, it is. Well, I prioritize my staff, hence why I don't pay myself yet. Okay, Miss Box will speak about that because I really want you to start paying yourself. You see that thing they say about the saying, two sayings, money doesn't buy happiness and money is the root to all evil. I completely disagree with both of those statements. I think money completely buys us happiness and money can always be used to do good. Okay, so I think that you should start paying yourself, but you can always message me privately and then we can have a conversation about how you can pay yourself. Okay. All right. I don't see any questions, so I'll move on and I will leave room.
Davy,
Does anybody want to ask any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
excuse me, we have two persons who with their hands up. Anne
No
Marie,
problem.
go ahead.
Yes, good evening.
Hi.
I am the person who said maybe in St. Lucia, but not Vinci,
Mm-hmm.
because I have shared that experiences where you were talking about the will
Mm-hmm.
and in St. Vincent,
Mm-hmm.
if it is a legal stamp from a
Mm-hmm.
lawyer's office or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that, it is
Mm-hmm.
recognized. But if you write a will
Mm-hmm.
and you get two people to signature there,
Mm-hmm.
and think the other families can contest it, and then the court,
Mm-hmm.
you still have to end up going to court, and then the
Mm-hmm.
court may award, may not award you, but award the others. So that is something that I personally shared.
Okay, no problem. And
The
I'm
other
almost
thing,
certain. Yeah, go ahead.
is that what percentage of your self-employed um, budget should you pay yourself?
Okay, so two very important questions. Well, one, your statement. What's your name? Who's the person I
Anne
was just
Marie,
speaking to?
Anne Marie, Anne Marie.
Okay, Anne Marie, I would like you to send me an email at the end, and I will reach out to one of my colleagues in St. Vincent who's a lawyer to verify what you're saying. People can dispute whatever they want, even when you have a lawyer's will, family members can dispute it. So that negates that part of it.
Mm-hmm.
A handwritten will is still very much accepted. It's part of what we do, but I will reach out to somebody and find out information for you in St. Vincent, okay? And I'll get back to you. So if you send me an email, I will get back to you about that. Your second
Okay.
question was about what percentage of your income for self-employed that you pay yourself.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. When we sit down and what happens is that you have to include yourself and offer to pay yourself what you would have paid somebody to do exactly what you're doing. Does that make sense? So if, for instance, you have free workers and they're doing production, they're doing accounting, they're doing something, how much would you pay them? If you would pay them $60 a day, then in that budgeting for the business, you put $60 a day for yourself. Does that make sense? So it's not
Okay.
about a percentage, but the business, if you are self-employed, you should still look at it as a business. Too often we look at it as a side job. And I will speak to you more about that, where record keeping comes in, which is where it will help you to be able to do better and see where you're making the money, see where you can pay yourself. You always have to look at it. So if, for instance, you're working on the farm like everybody else, why should you not pay yourself? Because if something happened to you and you are not there, will the farm not go on? So we'll
Exactly.
talk about that more again. You have to put something for yourself, or you should. I shouldn't say you have to, because again, you don't have to do anything. But I'll talk about that with you all a bit more. And if you do have questions before we meet up for next, I think it's on the 17th we're doing that part, please send me an email so I can address them, because the time is really limited. 2 hours is really not enough to do a session like this. But if you'll send me emails with questions ahead, I can come prepared with the answers or email you back with the answers. Does that make sense?
Yes, it is. So how would I get your email?
I'll give it to you at the end. So just get a piece of
Okay.
pen and paper so you can write it down at the end. And there's a
Okay then.
second
Thank
person
you.
who's waiting. No problem. Second person who's waiting to ask a question. I'll take that one question and I'll move on, and then I will answer some more. I'll leave some time at the end to answer some more.
Okay, good evening, everybody. My question,
Hello.
Miss Levy, for the will, you have to
Mhm.
have assets to leave a will. Like, for example, okay, so if I have a house, but it has a mortgage, then the land is tied to the house, and then I have a vehicle, but I'm still paying on it. That means I cannot leave a will, or can I still leave a will or make
Oh,
a will?
yes, you should. You should leave a will. Can I tell you why? That is when you must make a will. So if you don't make a will, then that's not good. So yeah, that's when you should make a will, because most banks will not give you a mortgage if it's not insured. And if it's insured, it means that if you die, the bank will pay off the debt. So if you don't say who you want the asset to go to when it's paid off, then what happens? So you should make a
Oh,
will, because
okay.
all banks have insurance in case something happened to you so they can get their money. So
That's
in
true.
the event that you die, and another thing I'll ask you to do, a lot of people don't do, and when they get in trouble, they find out, read your insurance policies with the bank. Read them. The banks don't like me because I am tedious. I go through it with a fine-tooth comb. I ask questions. So pull up your insurance policy. I had a client recently, and he turned out he had terminal prostate cancer. And the bank was saying that, he wasn't insured. And it turned out he was, and they ended up paying off his mortgage. So find
Mhm.
out what is it you are covered under the insurance, because the bank forces you to take these policies with your mortgage, but most times you
Yes.
don't know what is covered. So another thing that empower yourself financially, you are paying an enormous amount of money for these insurances. Find out what they cover. Your vehicle insurance. I just insured a vehicle recently, and the guy is telling me, oh, I'm only covered for $3,000 for windshield. So I ask him, how much is a new windshield? He tell me about 12. I tell him, then you can't cover me for that. How does that make financial sense? Huh? That a windshield cost
Mhm.
me 12 and you insure. So always know what you are insured for, but definitely make a will, because you have other things, even not the home, you'll have money in the bank. Now, if we, in the absence of a will, there's what you call succession. So first of all, it would go to your spouse, if you don't have a will, I believe, or your children, and then your brothers and sisters, and then your extended family would, so there's a succession. And again, I will make a note to find out the succession for you all, so I can share with you all next week, if you don't have a will, who gets first digs at your stuff. So imagine it's an ex-husband that you forgot to divorce and you hate him really badly. He'll get all your stuff if you don't have a will. So make a will, okay? Everybody make a will.
Okay,
I
thank you.
will tell you all a little bit more about wills next week, okay? But that's an important part about financial planning, particularly when you have some assets, okay? So I'll move on and we'll ask some more questions in a little bit. So budgeting basics, tracking expenses, setting financial priorities, and online banking. I really want to talk to you all about online banking today. So budgeting is a powerful tool to control your finances, and it involves several key steps. You have to identify all your income. Start by listing all your sources of income and all your expenses, both fixed income and variables. So fixed income would be your mortgage, would be your car payment, your insurance. These things are normally fixed. The variables would be the Shein expenses that you do, would be the eat out that you do, would be in St. Lucia, the carnival, the Creole days, the things that you're going to branches and fets. These are variables. Put that in because you know you're going to do them and you don't want to be short and you can't eat tomorrow, you can't do anything. Put these things down in your budget so you're not crying in a month or two, and then you'll be able to see where you are at. Creating spending categories. Allocate your expenses into categories such as housing, food, transportation, healthcare, so you can see where you're spending what. You'll be surprised when you look at that. You're going to go, oh my God, I spend so much money on food. Every day I spend in 40 EC dollars on a plate of food. Can you imagine what that money could do for me if I just decide to buy food and cook healthy? So separate them in categories so you can see exactly where your money is going, and you might be not pleasantly surprised, I'm afraid. Set spending limits. So base your income and spending limits to each category. So if, for instance, you know what housing is, these things have fixed costs. You know what your transportation is. You know what your healthcare might be if you have medications that you have to buy every month. But in terms of food and travel and entertainment, set a fixed budget for these things and try not to go over it, right? And you can review it regularly to be able to adjust any changes that might necessitate in your financial situations. You understand? But you need to set limits for that. So tracking your expenses. Keeping track of every penny is a crucial way to stick into your budget and savings goals, right? You can use spreadsheets, daily trackers. There's so many apps now that allow you to do budgets and they're free. You can use Google Sheets. If you have a Gmail address, it comes free with the equivalent of Excel and Word, and you can get templates in there to be able to create budgets and stuff like that, okay? Make it a habit to review your expenses regularly. This will help you keep track and adjust them. Cut any unnecessary spending. Identify and eliminate unnecessary expenses. Small savings can add up to significant amounts over the time, right? Prioritize your financial goals. That is essential for effective money management. And I want to go to the nicest thing that has happened since sliced bread: online banking. Again, I'm not preaching for any bank. I have lived in different countries. I am back here, and that is one thing in the Caribbean you do not utilize enough of. If you did online banking, do you know that could assist you particularly well with budgeting? Some of the banks, particularly I know 2 foreign banks in St. Lucia that actually have budgeting tools. You can put a limit and they'll send you a text message on your phone for free to tell you when you go over that. You utilize these tools. Before, you used to have to wait until you go to the bank to get your salary at the end of the month for you to know the bank made a mistake. The bank is not infallible. They make mistakes. They take money off your account when they shouldn't. They debit things that they shouldn't. Today alone, I logged onto my company account and there was a check that was like taken out of my account. I'm like, I didn't write that check. The number sequence for the checks didn't write. And it's another company's account that they debited my account for. Now, if I did not have online banking, do you know how long it will take me to realize that? It would take me until the end of the month when I'm doing my reconciliation to recognize that. Online banking is the best thing that has happened since sliced bread. You can put notifications. So every time a deposit comes in or a expense comes out, you can track it. Use online banking because it's going to help you in effectively managing your finances. Whilst you're online, some of the banks allow you to open an account online now. So if you already have an account with them, you open a secondary account. So I don't know if you'll ever hear about the wallet savings thing. So you can, envelopes. You can have an envelope at your home and put $20 and say that's for my trip to Martinique in August. Have a second envelope so you save for different things. The bank actually enables you to have different accounts where you can save for different things. So utilize these skills, move money around. Whilst you're in your bed sleeping, you don't even need to go to the bank. Think about the convenience of online banking. If your salary is paid into your account, if you are self-employed and you get your clients to pay directly to your account, if you have suppliers, you can pay them directly to the account. And the nice thing about online banking is that you don't need to remember receipts. There's your banking, your bank statement is your receipt, right? So I am one who never uses cash, I'm afraid. I always have. I don't use checks anymore because I think they should make them obsolete. I do online banking transfers for everything. So whether it be paying my staff or paying suppliers, I receive money from my bank from clients. I prefer them to pay me that way because I don't want to be going to a bank and standing on a line, right? So if you have online banking, in the middle of the night, you can wake up and check and see, oh my God, that happened on my account. Oh, I have that money, or I don't have that money. I cannot do that. I am asking all of you here today. Normally, we are behind as women in when things come to dealing with empowering ourselves, and online banking is a tool that will empower you. So if you don't already have online banking, if you're in St. Lucia, you're in St. Kitts, you're in St. Vincent, you're in Nevis, you need help, send me an email. I will find somebody at your bank that I can link you up with to assist you with online banking, even without you going into the bank, okay? So I am asking you, and some of you might think, oh, if I have online banking, people will steal from me. No, if you have online banking, you will see when people steal from you quicker, and you can report it quicker, right? So online banking is a great tool to have. So if you have any questions about that at the end, please let me know, okay? So credit, what is credit? Credit is your ability to borrow money or access money with the understanding that you'll pay it later. It can help you make purchases, but it also comes with a lot of responsibilities. Types of credit cards, personal credit loans, mortgages. Each type has its purpose and implications on your financial health. So understand the importance of maintaining a good credit worthiness and how it affects your borrowing capability. tips on managing your credit, I would say, again, if you had online banking, you can see if you are going to go into overdraft. And that's why I don't really advise using checks. Don't spend money you don't have. Never write a check if you know you don't have money, hoping that the money will get there before the check gets cashed. First of all, it's illegal to write a check and you don't have money in your cash. A lot of the banks don't enforce it, but you can get arrested for writing a check that you don't have money in your account, right? So use your credit wisely. Always figure out which interest rate is lower and when is your ability to repay. So for instance, if you have a credit card and the interest rate is 24% and you have an overdraft facility and the overdraft is 16%, which one would you prefer to use? Try and decide. Oh, if I can pay that one back in 30 days, the credit card, then maybe I can use the credit card. But if you know you can't, use the one with the less interest rates. Always consider the fees that comes with borrowing. There's a lot of fees that comes with borrowing, right? So you take a mortgage, you take a loan, there's a setup fee of 10% or 5%. These things all add up. The next thing is security. Most banks now, when you want a loan, they want to hold something, right? Why do they want to do that? In case you don't pay them back. So can you risk losing that something the bank wants to hold, or can you figure out an alternative method of borrowing? Always ask yourself these questions before you go for a loan. I find there's this notion that people are so disappointed when they don't get a loan from a credit union or bank. And I always say, don't look at it as a disappointment. Figure out a way to get yourself that money and do better. And borrow your own self that money in the future. You understand? And I do believe in credit unions. I believe that they do a focus. They provide a good function in communities, but now they are becoming like banks. So do they really perform the functions that the banks don't do? You understand? So again, always consider these things before you borrow. Okay? And where do it take me? Credit union. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you all about is saving for emergencies, future goals, unexpected expenses, savings. And I always tell people, at the least, you should always have 3 months. Sorry, at the very least 3 months of all your expenses saved somewhere. So if, for instance, your rent, your electricity, your water, your food, all these items come to $2,000 a month. You should have at least, at the very minimum, $6,000 in a savings account somewhere. Yeah. And generally the rule would be 6 months, but we know everybody cannot afford that. So I say, put 3 months worth of what you will need in case you lose your job, in case you have an accident, in case some unforeseen circumstance happen. For those of you who work in the tourism industry, look at what COVID did to us, right? And then when COVID happened, do you guys realize what happened? All the banks came and they were like, oh, we're going to give you a moratorium, a moratorium. Did we even understand what a moratorium was? Most people who could have paid their loans decided they were not paying it. And guess what happened? What the banks did not tell them is that the interest was accumulating all the time. So was it really a moratorium? No, they just did not bother you for not paying them, but the interest was accumulating. So now, instead of paying your loan in 3 years, you ended up paying it in 5 because the part you did not pay just ended up adding on and the interest continued to accumulate. So the cost of borrowing for you became more. So when you do have options for moratoriums, always ask questions. Does the interest stop at the point of the moratorium? Does it continue? Ask questions to be able to enable, because if you don't do that and you find that when you now go back to recommence your payments, you have an extra year to pay. It means you're paying an extra year's interest too. How much is that? Could you have saved that by paying? So these are the things I want you all to ask questions. It's your money that you have to pay back. It's not the bank. So always ask. Explore different saving methods, right? And I spoke about that earlier, the dedicated savings accounts or using envelopes. And like I tell you, even the banks have an envelope system now where you can open or things, how many different places where you can put your money and the bank will let you title it and you can transfer money to it. So explore these options for you to be able to do. Yeah. Prioritize savings for long-term goals, such as retirement or your children's education, which are essential for future financial planning. So we talk about generation wealth, and we talk about retiring, and we talk about all these things. But imagine you have a kid and that kid has potential. You don't have any land to secure to send them to school. The bank will not borrow you money because you're just a woman farmer. And I say that in quotation marks because, listen, they don't really care about us. So you can't get a financing to send your kid to school, but your kid has the potential to become a doctor, a lawyer. But how are you going to afford it? So this is why I'm telling you, you start saving from early on, you discipline yourself to do that. So maybe by the time the kid is ready to go, you may not have the entire 3 years of the savings, but you'll have one. And as women, we find a way to find the rest. But savings is important. And now that kids go on and become a lawyer, a doctor, or the kids even go and become an agriculturist or have an MBA. And they come back and work in the communities. And now they can contribute and they can make more money than you and I made. And this is how I want you to look at it. Making money, keeping it, and building successful financial empires is not about us as individuals. It's about empowering a generation to do better than us. Okay? So if you think about that, instill the goals. I remember my grandmother used to say, even when we got money as birthday presents or Christmas, save 10% of the money you have. So every dollar we get, we had to put 10% in a piggy bank. Now it may not seem like much, but it adds up. So if you now know you cannot afford to save too much, can you afford to save 10% of everything you get? Can you afford, if you get $10 to put $1 aside, if you get $100 to put $10 aside, if you get $1,000 to put $100 aside? Can you afford to do that? And if you can't, you can do less, but do something. Do something. A rainy day and emergencies always come knocking. Okay? So understanding lending. Lending refers to the process of providing funds to you, your business, and typically with interest. So if you understand how lending and borrowing works, then you can make an informed decisions about where to seek the funds when you need it, right? It's crucial to consider things like the lender's reputation. So for instance, payday loans. If you needed a loan now of $3,000, would you go to a payday loan? Would you go to a traditional bank? Would you go to a credit union? Would you ask a family member, right? So all these things matter when you are trying to borrow money, right? Looking at traditional banks versus credit union. Again, I am of the believer that credit unions are better for savings and traditional banks are better for loans. But while the traditional banks will not give you a loan if they don't see you have money coming in. So what I always tell people, open an account with a traditional bank. Always make sure you have one there because the cost of borrowing with them are less. Let your salary go through there. And what you can do is to create a direct debit or something to a savings account in the credit union. So that way the bank will always see your money come in and you save at the credit union. So your salary comes in is 3,000, 4,000 a month. Take 1,000 and just transfer it to the credit union. So the bank can see that money is coming. So when and if you need a loan with them, then it will be easier for you to get it. Okay? So I always say open an account if a bank. Credit unions are good, but they are expensive to borrow. Okay? So again, I am not for the payday loans. I think if you can avoid it at all costs, try not to take loans that are punitive in their interest rates. These things are made and done specifically for vulnerable people. I believe that it should be legal. I believe these are about people who should be, I'm not even sure how to describe them. The words I want to describe them, I'm not able to use here this evening. So avoid payday loans at all costs. You never need money that badly for you to take a payday loan. Trust me, it's not that bad. Okay? So again, get help, ask for advice before you decide to take that, because the moment you take it, you're stuck in. And if you can't repay them, then you're in trouble. Okay, so consider these things before taking a loan. We spoke about impacts of life events on your finances, right? Understanding life events, preparing for the unexpected. We've covered a lot of that. adjusting financial plans, right? So how do you adjust your financial plans in response to life changes, right? To allow you to remain on track to meet your financial goals. So what you do, you reevaluate the income, the expenses, see where you can cut, where you can save, while still keeping in mind that you need to attain this financial goal that you had made for yourself. So again, like I spoke about earlier, it's ever revolving, it's changing. You need to constantly evaluate. So for me, I do a financial evaluation at the end of every year. I take a purge and I do a financial evaluation. Two things that are constant in my life. So I start doing it around maybe ending of October, November. How well did I do this year? What do I want? How far am from the goals that I had set the year before? Do I have any goals I want to set? Do I need to readjust anything? So do I need to change my savings, increase it, decrease it? Do I need to cut down on my spending? So again, I'm telling you all that sometimes you don't need to fail at your goals. You just need to adjust the plan. The plan should always be flexible, okay? Your last will and testament. I've made a note to get some more information from some attorneys in St. Kitts, St. Nevis, because I noticed a lot of people were asking about that, and St. Lucia about last wills and testament. As soon as I have that information, I will either ask them to send it to you or I will share it with you on Thursday, okay? Life and health insurance. So these are two things a lot of us have. A lot of us have health insurance, particularly if we have mortgages. It's something that's forced upon us. We don't even have a choice. So after they hold the property as security, they force you to take life insurance, which not making sense. It's like they double jeopardy, right? But that's my personal opinion. Please don't take me at heart. I kind of don't believe in life insurance, if I'm honest with you, because I always believe that somebody benefits after I die. I need insurance for whilst I'm alive. So for me, health insurance is very important. Health insurance pays for eventualities. We live on islands that the healthcare is not particularly great. You need to be flown to another country. You need a specialist service is not always available in the small islands, and you need to do something. Do you constantly have a barbecue to raise funds, or can you look at putting aside $100 and something and cutting down on the Shein and all the other things that we do for us to be able to pay for health insurance? So whilst health insurance might seem like something else, it's also part of protecting your financial legacy. Because if you have health insurance, then a problem that could be sorted out, you have insurance for that rather than it's not. Life insurance is like a will. It's beneficial to those after you have passed. So you have to decide what life insurance you want, who do you want it to go to, and what do you want it to cover. Okay? So these are the things that I can tell you about that. Again, if you have any other questions about that you want to ask, please feel free to send me a message. I will touch on that very briefly because, again, I'm hoping that all of you all have headphones and not everybody's listening, and I don't want anybody to be at risk. So I'm not going to take too long about it. But financial abuse is something that's real, and sometimes it's normally gender biased. It can be both ways, but normally women are most affected by it, right? And financial abuse and its signs include controlling access to money, restricting spending, and using finances to manipulate. So some people are in relationships and their other half for their children sometimes. Even children do it to their parents. Or parents do it to their children. They would take their money, use it to control them, restrict their spending. So a discussion around financial independence and awareness is important. So we have to encourage you. If you think any of this is happening to you or somebody you know, seek help. If you find yourself in a financially abusive situation, right? I have put the names of your independent country coordinators that you can contact if you think this is affecting you and how Helen's Daughters might help you. Helen's Daughters is starting a program for counseling in November for you guys. So you again can access those services and share these things with your counselor should you wish, and maybe they can advise you and help you how to go, right? But financial abuse is a subtle yet powerful form of control that is often intertwined with domestic violence. It can manifest in various ways and is designed to undermine a partner's financial independence and self-sufficiency. Understanding the form of abuse is important in recognizing the signs and the steps towards helping yourself and recovery, right? So if you think that you are at all affected by any of that, I would say contact any one of these people there, right? So for instance, an abuser might rake up debt in your name and force you to take on loans, um, lending from a financial institution just to be able to, that is a form of financial abuse when somebody literally forces you to do that. Some people may manipulate you into signing financial documents or making investments that benefit them while putting you at risk. You may feel trapped in a relationship due to lack of financial resources, making it harder for you to live. So sometimes women are in relationships and they feel because they cannot support and the men are their provider, they're willing to take other forms of abuse because financially the men provide for them. That is also considered a form of abuse, right? Constant financial control, it can erode your sense of self-worth and autonomy, right? Without access to funds, you may find yourself challenging to seek help or leave a situation. But again, you have an amazing institution in Helen's Daughters. If you think you are suffering or anybody you know is suffering from that, please do reach out. Reach out. The only way we can help is if we know. And again, everything I believe is, not I believe, everything would be dealt with in the strictest of confidence, right? So again, if you feel you need help, resources around any of these issues, please contact your country coordinators. Overcoming financial challenges, right? So on average, women earn a lot less than men. Would you believe that's still happening in 2024? That shouldn't be happening. So how are we going to balance that equation? We can only do that if we make ourselves financially more literate. In St. Lucia, many years ago, probably 30-something years ago, a man by virtue of being a farmer could walk into an institution and get a loan because he was a farmer and buy a duty-free vehicle as an FAR. In 2024, do you know as a woman, it's still difficult for you to get it? It's difficult if you have a large estate and you want a firearm for you to be able to apply for one. I once had a police officer tell me that women are emotional, so they don't give them firearms. So the playing field is still not even for us. But the way we can empower ourselves is by knowing what we need to do what we need to do, become more financially resilient. This is why I tell you, money is actually power. It gives you a certain amount of power that I feel sometimes that's the only way sometimes men respect us, but maybe I'm wrong for saying that. But yeah, I want us to be able to build resilience, right? To overcome these challenges. Many women lack confidence and experience in dealing with things like financial planning and management. And again, it comes to you go to the bank and the bank, you want a loan. And you're so desperate for the loan, you forget to ask them how long it'll take you to pay it, what your interest rates are. So these are basic things I want you to be able to start doing. When you go to a financial institution, even for your savings, ask how much savings they're going to pay you. Shop around. You don't have to stay with one bank. You have a mortgage, for instance. Are you aware that even though you have a mortgage, you can move your mortgage to a different institution for a better rate? Most people in the Caribbean have a mortgage and they have it with the same bank for the rest of their lives, regardless of what the interest rates are. So if you have a bank in a mortgage with one institution and you've passed your penalty stage, you can call all the other banks and say, listen, I have a mortgage at that institution. If I bring it over to you, what can you offer me? Never be afraid to find out what you want for yourself. You can only get if you ask. And the time we spend on TikTok going over these, what you call it? I recently found out they call shorts. These are addictive things, or YouTube, just going over it. You know how much you can learn and do for yourself financially? Shop around, figure out how things work, do online banking, spend a little less time on things that don't benefit you and do things that benefit you, not just today, but going forward. Okay? So building resilience would involve things like emergency planning, which we spoke about, diversification. So diversifying from different things. If you have one source of income and you notice, again, you will not know if it's not working until you put pen and paper. It may be working, you may be barely managing, but can you figure out a way to have a secondary income? How are we going to be able to build resilience for when one crisis happens, for us to be able to support ourselves with something else that we're doing, right? So keep updating yourself with financial knowledge and skills, attend workshops, participate in seminars. You know, these are the kind of things I'd like to see you all do, right? Now, there's so many women. Okay, I'll come back to that one. I will go here because I wanted to talk to you all. How many of you all knew about Tisha Bailey? I always bring her up because for me, in the Caribbean, there are not many women that we can look up to in terms of financial things. And she's one of those people who, and I listened to her recently, she did an interview and she was saying that had she not equipped herself with financial literacy, she wouldn't be where she is. And she's doing really well. So I applaud all of you all to look up on her, look her up, see what she's doing. Again, we can't all be her, but I always look up to people who's doing well for me to get tips as to how I can improve myself. So, okay, so look up Tisha Bailey and see what she's doing. Investments. I wanted to touch a little bit on investments. Now, one of the reasons I brought that up, I'm going to try and wrap up in the next few minutes, so I'll give you guys a chance to speak and ask as many questions as you want. I don't know if you guys remember Amway and what are the other ones called, and Fenty, and is it Fenty? Something about a jewelry. And I'm not damning on anybody's thing, in terms of doing all these things. And there's a new one somebody approached me about investing, where they're asking you to invest, but you have to pay. First of all, anytime a company approaches you and tells you that you can make millions of dollars, but you have to pay them to enter it or to start it. So there's always a fee. Just think again and say there must be something wrong with that. Because if it's so good, why do I have to pay? And when one of these people approach you telling you they can make you make millions if you do it, always remember to ask them, can you show me your portfolio? How much money have you made? And I can almost guarantee you 99.99% of the time, they haven't made any money. It's a pyramid scheme. So be aware of these types of investments. With every investment comes a risk. The higher the risk, the higher the payout. So you have to determine what your risk level is before you can invest. You can start investing small. So for instance, in St. Lucia, in St. Kitts, in Nevis, your electricity boards might have shares selling. Buy that. I always tell people invest in things that you use because you're sure that you will get a return on it, right? So these are the types of investments I'm talking about. Talk to the banks about. Some banks have really good retirement plans where the risk is very low. They use your money to reinvest in certain portfolios, and then you send a certain amount of money to it. And there's not really there's a penalty of breaking it, but it's not a lot of money, but it's still a risk, but the risk is minimal. So in terms of investments, investment is a good thing, but I always say investment is secondary to savings. Okay. And again, that's a conversation we can have, but I think it's more important from a personal perspective for you to understand your own income, expenditure, and savings first before you go into investments. If you have extra, then we can talk about investments, okay? So if you have any questions about investments, you can let me know. Sorry, I'm just drinking a little water. So like I said, look up Tisha Bailey. I want to remind you about doing a financial self-assessment. So at the end of this, I will send you three documents that'll be your homework for when I meet you on Thursday. Again, you don't have to share it back with me. I would just like you to fill it out and tell me when you come back, give me a little thing about it. Do you find it was helpful or not? It will be a budget, a sample budget, a financial statement, and what is the third one? Oh, and something you can access your net worth. So basically, you're going to put down all your assets, all your debts, and then it's going to tell you how much you are worth. I want you to do it as a self-examination. So that's going to be your homework for next week. And you don't need to come back and tell me personally, except if you have a question, how to fill it, what you think, what can you do, if you find your net worth is not where it should be, if you find your net worth is is really healthy, and you'd like to invest or do something else, then perhaps I could guide you along the way. Okay. But always looking at your assets, your liabilities, and then deciding how much is it that you're worth. So if you have a mortgage and it's $600,000 and you only have $20 in the bank, you know that's not a good sign. Your net worth is not as good as you think it is. Okay? So these are some of the things I want you to remember, and the importance of awareness. Okay? So understanding your financial status empowers you to make informed decisions rather than basing them on assumptions and guesswork, which is why I would ask you to really look at the documents I'll send you, fill them out. Strategic planning. With a clear picture of where you stand, you can set realistic financial goals and develop strategies to achieve them. Early detections of any problems. Regular financial assessments can help you identify and address financial issues before they grow into serious problems. Confidence and peace of mind. For me, that is the most important one. Financial awareness can significantly reduce stress and anxiety about money by providing a sense of control over your financial future. And a lot of people stress about money. I have known people who've committed suicide over money. It's not that serious. Equip yourself with the tools so you don't have to do that. Okay? So for women, mastering financial literacy and conducting regular financial self-assessments are powerful steps towards achieving economic empowerment and independence. By utilizing the right tools and understanding the importance of financial awareness, you can take control of your financial destiny and work towards a secure and prosperous future. Okay? So I have all these nice pictures. So I put 3 places that I'm on my bucket list and I'm saving to go to. Right? Peru, a place called Zanzibar, and a safari in Tanzania. Okay? So what I'm trying to say is create a plan. Your milestones are different from mine. Mine are different from yours. Figure out what you want. Yours could be as simple as, listen, I just planning because next year I want to jump Carnival. Don't go into debt for joining Carnival. Plan, save, put the money aside. It could be a simple thing like you want to buy a present or do something special for somebody that you love. Plan, set a milestone, and commit to making it actionable, right? The first step to ensuring your financial literacy is to develop a comprehensive action plan tailored to your unique circumstances and goal. Start by assessing your financial situation, including your income, expenses, debts, and savings. This assessment will serve as a foundation for your plan. Next, I would like you to identify your financial goal, whether it's savings for retirement, buying a home, starting a business, or simply building an emergency fund. Be specific about what you want to achieve and set a timeline for each goal. Additionally, consider what resources you need, such as educational materials, workshops, or financial advisors to help you along the way. Remember, a well-structured plan is not only outlines what you want to achieve, but also includes actionable steps to get you to where you want to go. Once you've created the action plan, the next step is to set the milestones. You will help track the progress. These milestones will act as checkpoints when you check yourself on the journey to the financial literacy and success that you want for yourself. For example, if the goal is to save for a certain amount of money within a year, break that down into monthly or quarterly targets and celebrate each milestone. You know, if for instance, you say you're going to save $12,000 for the year, when you reach March, you see you are free, you're like, wow, you know, pat yourself on the back. It's small, but you got there. And even if you don't get to the exact amount, you've done what you could. Additionally, regularly review your milestones, and that will allow you to adjust your plan if necessary, ensuring that you remain on track to meet those goals. And finally, I want you to commit to the action, as that is so important in succeeding with your financial literacy journey. This means holding yourself accountable for the steps outlined in your plan. Consider sharing your goals with trusted friends or family members who can provide support and encouragement. You might also want to join a financial literacy group or community where you can share experiences and learn with others. Just remember, consistency is key. Make a habit of renewing your financials regularly. I told you I do mine every year end. You know, the same way you make New Year's resolutions, make that. Updating your goals as you need and staying informed about financial matters. By committing to taking action, you'll empower yourself not only to achieve your financial goals, but to cultivate a lifelong understanding of financial literacy that will benefit you and future generations. Developing an action plan, setting milestones, and committing to the actions are all very essential steps in your journey towards financial literacy. By taking these steps, you will not only improve your financial knowledge, but gain confidence in managing your finances, ultimately leading to a greater financial independence and security, right? Now, I'm going to open the floor for questions. I'm going to just point out my little house rules again before we go for questions. And I want to show you one thing, a financial calculator, which I will put up on the screen, and I will take that down just to show you a little bit about loans before we move on to the questions. So again, understanding finances can be a challenge, and we all come from diverse backgrounds with varying degrees of familiarity. So please, let's be supportive and respectful towards each other's experiences and questions. If something isn't clear or you need further explanation, raise your hand. I'll do my best to answer you. If not, you can always send me an email and I will respond to you. Privacy. Should you want to share any personal or sensitive information, I encourage you to do so through a private message. This will help maintain your confidentiality. So let's again support each other. Let us empower each other, and each question or insight shared is going to enrich us collectively. Okay, so let me take down that screen and I will come back again before we end. Just give me a moment. I'm going to take down that screen, stop sharing. And I'm going to put something up on the screen that I want to share with you. August. So it's called, is the demand calculator? Are you kidding me? Just give me a minute, huh? Sorry about that. Okay, I'm going to share. Can you see the screen? Sandy, can you tell me if you can see the screen?
Nothing yet, sir.
No?
No.
Sorry, guys. My computer is not, that's not good. Okay, I'm going to look at the questions in the meantime. I'll give you a little moment because I'm not sure what's happening there. Okay, so it's not saying full screen. Okay. So it's saying screen one. Again, tell me if you can see. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Is it big? Is it small?
It's big. Yes.
Okay, so I just want to show you guys a little bit before you start asking me questions about a loan. I just put in a sample. So let me start with a smaller loan. Stop it. A smaller loan, let's say $60,000. This is the exact calculation that mostly all the banks will use. And let's say the interest rate is going to be 6%. I change it to 6. I'm not sure what a basic consumer loan is. I would have to find out. 6%, right? And they give you 3 years to pay it back. Let me put that at 0. Okay. So typically your loan repayment would be that amount, 1821. The insurance part, unfortunately, I can't take it out because, like I tell you, that's the exact template of a bank and it's macroed, so I can't interfere with it. They would normally have an insurance component they would add to your loan. This is how much it is. So when we scroll down, you can see how much insurance you pay and how much interest you pay, right? So you pay that every month for 36 months. I just want to show you that if you were, let's say you decide you have an extra $150, just a small $150 to put every month towards a payment. Can you see how much that has cut down your loan repayment by? Maybe 150 is not a good example for such a big amount, but it does cut it down. Maybe I'll use a mortgage instead. Hold on, let me just use a mortgage instead. So 600,000. Let's see a loan for 600,000 at 6% for, how much is a mortgage normally for? Let's
10
say
years.
20 years. 10 years? Any mortgage for 10 years, my girl. Not in this lifetime. 240 months. Number of payments per year, 240. Going to start on the 1st of September. Let me put that back to 0. So that's your mortgage payment for 20 years, right? Can you see how much the interest, why is it showing the interest at that? Sorry, there's something missing there. Loan repayment years. Okay, that's 3 years. So we're saying 20 years. That's what was the problem. Something is not right there. Sorry, guys. Number of payments per year, 12. There you go. There you go. Okay. So 20 years, 12 payments a year, 6% interest, $600,000. So every year, this is what you pay. You pay that in insurance, you pay that in interest, you pay that to the principal. Can you see how much goes towards interest versus the principal? So that's important to note that a lot of people don't understand that before you even start paying the amount you borrow, the bank collects most of their money, right? So this is for 20 years. But let's say hypothetically, you were able to put an extra $2,000 a year directly towards the principal. I want to show you how significantly that will decrease your loan payment. So you see, you move from 240 months to 151 months. Let me tell you what that is. 89 divided by 12. So that's 7 years you took off your mortgage by paying an extra $2,000 a month directly to the principal. So I just wanted to show you all that, okay? So when you take a mortgage, some banks, I'm not sure if all, they have a period where they tell you there's a penalty. You either cannot pay more to your interest, and normally it's about 4 or 5 years to your principal. When that is over, you can start saving money before that is over, and just when you get the money, you can just put it down. But these are ways you can help yourself shorten your loan, reduce your debt, and create more wealth for yourself, okay? Because you'd have more equity in your property. The more you pay, the quicker you paid it off. So now I'm going to open the floor for questions. I'm going to first look in the chat and see what we have in the chat. Sorry. Okay. Okay, I'm seeing, is that my first question, Sandy? Or the chat is, see the chat has 83 questions, but did I respond to them? Hold on. I want to make some investments. What are your thoughts on renting versus home ownership? Okay, let me go back to the top. I never need to talk about partner hands as means of financing anymore. What are your thoughts on partner hands?
I think that's the first question. Everybody was making a statement.
Okay. I don't believe in life insurance either. The purpose of my life insurance is for death. It's a savings that's covered to point a coverage of 250. That's my beneficiary can benefit from. No questions asked. That's fine, Miss Elliott. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. Again, I wasn't directly saying don't have life insurance. I was just illustrating that you don't benefit from life insurance. Somebody else does. So again, that's perfectly fine. I never heard anyone talk about partner hands. You talk about like a susu. I think it's not sure we call it a susu. The thing with susus is that people have become so desperate for money that there's so many issues around susu. You have to know who you get in with a partner hand or susu because they end up stealing the money, running away. So I think that's why it's becoming less and less. If you have a trusted group of people that you can trust and go into it, why not? But remember, you're not really gaining or benefiting anything because it's the same money you give in, you getting back. So why risk your money to go to somebody rather than discipline yourself and put it in an account where you can save it? It comes to the same thing. You need $600 in 6 weeks. You put $100 a week in an account. So again, a partner hand is probably for people who don't have the discipline to save. Another woman I listen to is Kayla Reynolds. Okay, I don't know of this person, but I will make a note. Fendi. Okay, that was the name of the thing. Sorry, I'm not Okoa. So Miss Elliott said, yes, please, for something. I don't know what, so maybe you can raise your hand and then tell me what are your thoughts on investing in treasury or government bills? Again, these can be a bit risky, but that's a conversation and I don't know much about it because it's not something I have ever been interested in, but I can look into it and get back to you. The other things that they take is your time, which is value. Okay, I don't understand that question. That's not a question. What are your thoughts on renting versus home ownership? Okay, so there is this notion that everybody wants to own their house even though they cannot afford it. And really, if I had to live my life all over again, I would rent. But again, that's me. Because when I'm renting, I don't have to worry about the maintenance of the house. The landlord does that. Renting is not a bad thing. In countries like France, people don't own, they rent. Because they believe that their quality of life is not working to pay a mortgage. And then when they finish paying the mortgage, they probably have to spend the same amount of money for refurbishments. So again, to each its own, everybody have to look at what's best for them. Home ownership might be something somebody have, but home ownership now has become something as a matter of status. So people want to own it for the wrong reasons, even though they can't afford it. My thing is, you can't afford it, you want it, go for it. You can't really advise on that, depend on what your goals are. I want to make some investments. There are loads of investment opportunities. The number of payments per year is 240. Should that be 12? Thank you. I did change that. What about cash value life insurance? If I did go for life insurance, I would prefer to go for the cash value. So at some point I can cash it out. So yes, that's a good question. Is there any savings aspect to mortgages? I'm asking because I know this obtains for insurance companies. I am not sure and I'd have to look into it. Again, some banks I know, whilst you paying your mortgage, they might let you open something called a cash collateral. So if your mortgage is $2,000, they might make you save 2,500 and put the 5 to a cash collateral. So every month you get in that money. Okay. So anybody have their hand up? What is your take on a credit card for business expenses? A credit card for business expenses is absolutely a good thing. With the advent of everybody shopping online for all their supplies and stuff like that, I do believe that. I sometimes think the bank should make debit cards available to people so they can use their own money. But a credit card has almost become a necessity for business expenses. And again, instead of having to think about where you left your receipts, a credit card statement can work as your receipt, and then you now can go back and reconcile and do it. So I do think a credit card for business expenses is a good thing, if that's all you're doing on it. So don't mix it. For business, you should always separate your accounts for business and for personal.
We have Cynthia.
Sure, Cynthia. Some banks do not have the facility money transfer from one account to the next in online banking. That's very interesting. Is that banks or credit unions you're talking about, Ms. Fontinel? Because I think all banks would have a facility to transfer. So if there is a bank that does not, please let me know so I can do some research and get back to you. But possibly you're talking about credit unions. There's no traditional bank I know in the Caribbean that does not have online facility. So Ms. Fontinel, please let me know which bank that is in a chat and I'll get back to you. You didn't benefit from the moratorium at COVID. I don't believe in life insurance either. Okay. Miss Cynthia, go ahead.
Good night, Miss Daniel.
Good night.
I really enjoyed tonight. That was
Oh.
my supper.
Oh.
Tired as I am from work, but this revived me so much because this is so informative. It's not too late for me to start back again, build up
No,
my
it's never too late.
And I have so much to ask, but when you send the email, there'll be more personal stuff. But I want you to tell me what is the difference between a will and a probate?
Oh, that's different. So a will is actually what you make to say what you want your stuff to go to. A probate is when the person has passed, your family has to probate that will. So basically they have to go to court, present the will and say, listen, this is the will, this is what the person's wishes are. So after you've gone through that stage now, then you can take whatever assets were left in the will with the probate. For instance, you'll go to the bank if it's cash they left, and then the bank will release the cash to whoever you left it. Or if it's property you left, then the registry of the land registry will now transfer that deed from your name to the person you left it to. So a will is the instructions, the probate is the court verifying those instructions.
So can you or can I do it myself? Prepare
Sure
it?
you can. It's just that it's going to be a tedious process, but you can do research and find out. Because what happens is that a probate, I believe in St. Lucia, cost about maybe minimum $6,000. But then even after the probate, when you use a lawyer for them to vest, what you call vesting. So if it's a property the person left and the property is worth $100,000, the lawyer will charge you 4% of the value of the property to vest it in your name.
Okay, can I give an example?
Mm-hmm.
I have one son, okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't have to prepare a will, or do I have to prepare a will? He's the
Well,
only
if you
one.
have one son and he's the only one, automatically he gets it. But then what he has to do, if you pass away without a will, he has to do something called letters of administration for
Oh,
him to be able to get anything. So I, for one, I'm not so much about, I don't know, some people stick to that. So my view is that I have children myself, and my hope is that before I pass away, I will pass whatever I have into their names, or I will sell it to them for $1. So they don't have to go through that crap and this expense after I pass away. Does that make sense?
yes.
So there's ways around it. The only thing is that if you happen to have a really bad child and then you pass it into their name before you die, or you sell it to them for $1 and they kick you out. So you have to weigh options as to what you want to do. Does that make sense? So I always
Yeah.
tell people you have to know your cast of characters and prepare for it, right? Or you might have
Yeah.
two children. One might be fighting to sell it. The other one, you never know. So make decisions based. Also, there's an executor part of a will. Normally, you have to instruct somebody to be the executor of the will. When you do that, that's sometimes more problems because the executor doesn't have to be the beneficiary. So let's say you made your sister the executor and you have two children, then it becomes an issue. So think well about your financial planning, groom your kids to be the best so that they understand that what you work for is not necessarily theirs. And then you make a decision, although sometimes the will is for emergency because you don't know when you're going to pass, right?
Yes, true.
And then I always tell myself too, if I don't do it, when I die, I won't know, It's their problem. Sorry, Cynthia.
Yes, because
I had to put a little bit of humor in there too, right?
yeah, my family would not fight over what I have because they all have their
But you
kids
never
and
know.
everything.
You never know. You never know. Death brings out the worst in people.
Yeah, well,
So that's why it's always good to protect it.
I see that for sure. I had another
Yeah.
question, but you're talking to somebody who had everything in order
Mm-hmm.
and she lost everything
You
for a
didn't lose it.
divorce.
It just yeah, exactly. So you didn't lose it. So I have been through divorce myself. So I understand the perils of divorce, and nothing better than a woman who can bring herself back up. And I want to empower every one of you all today. There is no love lost and nothing you cannot do and do it better after a divorce.
Ms.
So
Danielle,
just pick up yourself and you'll
I-
be just fine.
I've picked up myself and dust myself, but it was
Yes,
a hard road. But you see
yes,
what you
yes.
just give me there is like putting me in the fifth gear.
No problem.
Thank you
And you
so
can
much.
always email. You are more than welcome, my dear. And I know you
Yes.
will do well, because trust me, all we need is a bit of resilience, tenacity, and you pick yourself up and you get even better. Just
Yes.
do better. Just do
Yes.
better next time.
That
That's
was
all.
that was a big push there tonight for me. I really
There you
appreciate this. So I await
No
your
worries.
email.
No problem. You'll get the email on the thing. Just make sure you'll put your name in the title. So when I respond, I don't share your information with Helen's daughters for whatever you ask me, but I do give them a broad spectrum of what you message me about, so they know to put help in place if they need to.
Yes.
Okay?
Thank you very
But nice
much.
talking to you, Miss Spencer, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Who's the next person?
Ladies, don't be shy.
The bank has something now where you can add a beneficiary to your bank account. It's still a probate still necessary. I am not sure. I know the credit union does that. I don't know that any bank has somewhere you can add a beneficiary. What I do know is if you have a joint account with somebody at the bank on death, probate or no probate, that has nothing to do with a will, the money automatically belongs to the person that's joint with you. So that does not have to go through probate. So if, for instance, I have a joint account with you and you die tonight, I can take out all the money, it's mine, and nobody can do me anything. I don't know that banks make you put a beneficiary. I don't know that. Again, Mrs. Nathan Francis, I'll be interested to know which bank again, so I can look into it. I know credit unions do that because credit unions are not banks. They fall under a different category of banking than under the ECCB guidelines. So I would love to know which bank lets you put a beneficiary, because I don't have one. If you write your will with a lawyer, who will read it? So what happens with a will is that a lawyer would normally prepare a will and they would have a copy. You would put your will wherever you want. If you decide to put it where the beneficiaries can see it, then that's all for you. When you pass away, you would have told somebody where your will is, and they will contact the lawyer. And the lawyer now will have to they normally send an email among their colleagues or a memo asking, are there any wills that were prepared by another lawyer? Just to make sure, because remember, it's your last will and testament. That's the effective one. So it doesn't matter how many, you can make 20 wills in your lifetime, but it's the last one you wrote that matters. So if you have one will and maybe you went to do another one with a different lawyer, so the courtesy, I believe, is that they normally ask, and then it's the last one you do that will be, they'll call everybody involved, the executor, the beneficiaries, and then the will be read. Okay?
Ms. Daniel?
Yes.
I forgot the real main one. There's an institution I have my mortgage at, and I wanted to try and see if I can clear it off before time, and they told me that I'll have to pay 1% of
Okay,
that.
so how long have you had the mortgage?
They gave me 13 years. I have 6 more years left.
Okay, that's unusual because, again, maybe when you signed the mortgage, you did not look and ask and listen to everybody else.
Yes.
That's a lesson learned. She signed the mortgage and she didn't ask what is the penalty. And now she wants to clear it early. She can't do that, and possibly not even being able to take it to another bank. So again, send me a message privately and I'll look into it for you.
Yes, please. Thank
Okay?
you.
No
Yes.
problem. No problem. Thank you, Roxanne, for your kind words. Sorry, not a credit union, and not bank. Yeah, banks don't do that. Sorry. It's not mandatory, but there are some banks that do it. Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines does it. Okay, I'll look into that and I'll get back to you all. I always like to go directly to the source. So I'll reach out to somebody at Bank of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and ask. Thanks for sharing. Much appreciation. The bank encourages you to add whatever you want to be your beneficiary to your account. Miss Sedum, which bank is that? Again, I just want the Bank of Nevis does it, allow beneficiaries? Okay. So perhaps we have a different thing, but I'm not sure any bank here does it. I want to make some investments. Okay. I've seen a lot of messages here, but for some reason, hold on. Anybody want to ask any questions? Don't be shy. That's what I'm here for. Don't be shy. Let me put up the last
Yes, I have one
slide.
question, please.
No problem. Go ahead. Hello, Miss Edwin.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I was wondering whether or not a promissory note that you would have granted to somebody, so say $10,000, and they sign a promissory note, whether you can use that as collateral to get a loan.
Now, okay, so that depends on who. So if you have a promissory note from the government of a country, then yes. If you have a promissory note from me, the bank might tell you they don't know me at all. So a promissory note in the Caribbean does not mean anything.
Wow.
Except if it's from the government, or except if I bank with the same bank you go to and they can see I have money, because nobody can force me to disclose where I have money and how much. So a promissory note, except if it's from, I know the banks sometimes take it for contractors who are doing work for the governments, but that's based on normally governments, but I don't know that they take it as personal promissory notes at all.
Okay, thank you very much.
No problem. Miss Jennifer Marshall, Venetia Elliott, and Avita. So whoever's first, go ahead.
Okay, this is Jennifer.
Hi, Jennifer.
Yeah, good evening and thanks for the program. You spoke about financial abuse. In many cases I've found, especially abuse involving elderly, it's the children or close relatives who are, if you want to call it, the perpetrators. And what you also find is that not many of the older persons are willing to share for fear. So I'm wondering, in a case like that, how do you get around it to protect the elderly person and to make sure that she's safe, she's not abused any further and perhaps even physically?
Okay, so first of all, if the elderly person is a relative, they should have a next of kin. So if you brought it up with the next of kin, they should be able to do something legally where you take curatorship over somebody. So you deal with their personal affairs, or she can give power of attorney to somebody. So first of all, the first line would be a relative. And if a relative doesn't work and somebody genuinely thinks there is something, you can approach a social worker and the courts. I'm not sure how it works in the Caribbean. I lived in the UK and Canada where there's a different, that would be more difficult for it to happen. And somebody doing it would be caught and it would be dealt with immediately. So again, I don't have the answer particularly to that, but what I would do for you, Jennifer, is to find out and share it with you and the rest of the group. Maybe not this session, but the last one, if that's okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're more than welcome.
Okay.
Miss Lewis?
Hi, good night, everyone. Awesome presentation, I must say. Very, very good. Thank you. Question, if you have your name only, I don't know if you can remember if you answered this question already, but if you have your name only to an account and well, a lot of money is inside of it and you die, what going to become of the money? And if he doesn't make a will or anything, I mean, the bank would hold the money?
Yeah, technically, and eventually if nobody claims it, it goes to ECCB. But what happens is that if it's you're referring to and you have a lot of money, that is where a will comes in. So when you have the will, then the person when you pass away, the person probate the will and the money would go to them. The lawyers would benefit, of course, because they would take a percentage of the money. The way to get around that, if it's you're speaking about personally, is for you to be able to make the account joint with somebody. So in the event something happens to you, the person automatically gets the money. That's if you trust the person, because they can be taking it whilst you're alive and you don't know. Secondly, if it's not you and it's somebody else who has left the money and you're wondering how you can access it, then you now have to find out if that person has a will. And if it's a bank or credit union, if it's a credit union, I know the credit unions do beneficiaries. Look, now I'm being told that some of the banks do beneficiaries. I'm going to have to do some research in that. So if they have a system of having beneficiaries, then normally it wouldn't need to go through probate. The beneficiary would now just show up with their ID card and proper identification and proof that they were who they were, and they probably would hand over the money. So again, I'd have to find out for you, depending on where the circumstances are. Is it that you want to make sure that your money is protected, or you want to see if somebody's money that is there, how somebody else can access it?
I want to make sure my money is protected.
So leave a will.
Yeah. Yeah, but find out from Bell Bank of SVG if in terms of beneficiary if they do offer that, or maybe I could just call them, I guess.
Bank of Nivis. But I will find out and share with everybody because there are a lot of people from
Of
SVG
SVG,
asking.
yeah, St. Vincent.
SVG, no
St.
problem.
Vincent.
No problem.
Yeah.
No problem. I'll
Thank
do
you.
that for you, okay? And I'll let you all know.
Thanks. Yeah, God
No
bless.
problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye.
No problem. Next
Venetia?
person.
Venetia?
Can you see that
Hello.
screen I'm sharing or not? Sorry, before you go, Sandy, can you see the screen I'm sharing?
Yes, I can.
And it says my details,
Email
right?
address. Yes, it does.
That's the only screen. That's the only one you can see, or the whole thing.
Just a minute.
Yeah.
Everything next session, Thursday, October 10th, Tuesday, October 17th.
Okay. Oh no, I wanted to open it out. Okay, let me put it in mode. No problem. So Venetia, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was saying, well, I said yes, please, when it came to these people with the schemes coming at you and giving all of these proposals and all of these projections, and yet they have nothing to show for it. But
Okay, yeah.
actually today, a young man from Sir Arthur, he met me and he had his whole pitch. He's telling me, you have water. He showed me some things he had like these things you can add to your water to flavor them, and he telling me come from an organic farm and all that. And what I just wanted to ask was, what are the cardinal signs of these kind of schemes? Because I noticed now they actually use the cash flow quadrant in order to entice people into selling products on behalf of Amway or whatever they does be saying.
Yeah.
And then they try to
So
up the younger people.
yeah, so what happened is that they use a method now, I believe, is called brainwashing, essentially. They make them listen to all these tapes, hype them up. And the thing about it is that people are so driven by quick money these days. Nobody wants to work. So it's very easy to convince somebody who needs to go to the next carnival costume or to want to buy some stuff online to be able to do these things. What I can tell you is, first of all, they'll approach you in two ways, either to buy their products so that the person in the hierarchy that is the only person who really benefits, or secondly, to ask you to join. The first telltale sign is any business, if I have a business and I want you to sell, why would I ask you to pay to join in my business to sell for me? So that's already a telltale. That doesn't make sense, right? You have to pay 100 US to become a member. That's already a telltale sign. Secondly, the pyramid scheme things, it always collapses. So you end up spending your money. What you find people doing to try and make money, can you imagine? I had a friend who was part of this and he was buying most of the products for himself to try and push himself up the ladder. Does that make sense? So all I'm saying is to be careful. And the other question, like I told you, always ask them, if you can make so much money for me, how much have you made for yourself? Am I that stupid that you want to make money for me? Am I that important that you want to make money for me that you haven't made for yourself? Always ask them that question.
Thank
Okay?
you.
No problem. Next question.
Okay, Elsa, you'll be the last person. Go ahead.
Oh no, they have somebody else, Sandy? I don't mind. If they have somebody else, I can do 5 minutes again. I don't want to cut them off.
Okay, no problem.
That's okay.
Elsa?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, good night. Wonderful
Good night.
presentation. Sorry that I get home late from work, but I didn't hear the starting. But it's so interesting. And my question is about a loan that is lapsed. And this loan is that the husband died, and now the widow is left now to pay this loan. But instead of she think that she's paying the loan, when she go now, it's just inches she's paying, and the loan is still way high up there. So how do she get this loan redo over?
Okay, so
at a
for two
cheaper
questions.
price?
Two questions. Was the wife's name on the mortgage?
I'm not sure. I have to find out that.
Okay, so you have to ask, was the wife's name on the mortgage? Secondly, is it a bank or credit union?
It's a bank.
Okay, so if it's a bank, 99% of the time, the bank takes insurance on the person. So if the husband died, there might be something where the wife can explore to present the man's death certificate, and the bank should pay the mortgage off. Okay, so that's something. I'm not saying that always happens. Yes. So when you take a mortgage, the bank normally has an insurance component that you pay. A lot of people don't know that. And again, if the wife's name is not on the mortgage, she's not obligated to pay it.
Oh my
So she
God.
now needs to get financial thing, because how can you force me and my name wasn't on? I didn't sign for a mortgage. And if the man's thing, if he was insured, check the insurance to see whether the bank has a responsibility to pay off that mortgage. So in the absence of any more information, I cannot tell you. You'd have to first find out whether she was a signatory to the mortgage. Secondly, whether there was an insurance for the husband.
Okay.
And thirdly, the bank now is not in her interest to pay it, if I'm honest with you. Because what's the bank going to do? Repossess the house? Which country are you in?
St. Vincent.
Yeah, the banks can't really kick you out of a home. They would have to sit and negotiate with you. She can always approach them and see how best she can do it. But first things to find out, what's her name on the mortgage and was there any insurance component to it? And even if they're not going to pay off all, if they can pay off some, my email is on the screen now.
Okay.
Email, I can't, because I know I will respond to everybody. So you'll just have to be patient with me because I work a lot. And it's normally in the evening times I sit down and I go through them. Okay, so ask me questions, I will respond to you. We have another session on the 10th of October about accessing funding, and that will have a lot to do with, I will try and do a simulation for you all as to how you're going to access loans from the bank, what the requirements are like, and some access to certain fundings that might be available to you all, okay? And then we have another one on Thursday about business and record keeping, okay?
Okay.
All
so
right.
That's an eye opener for me in where I was in that. I make so much money for them people there. And when they done, they said one check give me for $1.
That's for what?
For all the double X that I sell. So now I hear you speaking about it. It's so much an eye opener because I was planning in go back into it, but it doesn't really make no sense. You're just making the money and those at the top getting rich.
Yes,
So
no, that
thanks
exactly.
very
And they
much.
send you a check for $1, right? And then look at all the work you've done and you haven't done it. Now, let me ask you something. You're now part of Helen's Daughters. You probably can create a small kitchen garden. You can think about some agro processing. You can call us up at Helen's Daughters and say, listen, I want to be able to start a small business. How can you help me? And you will find you'll probably make $20,000 by the end of the year. So that's my goal for you. So in that $1, you need to take revenge on it and make 20 by the end of next year. Okay, 20,000. Okay.
Okay, I will take you up on that challenge. Thanks very much.
So let's do this. Let's do this.
Yeah.
All right, and my details are on the screen now, so you all can copy it down.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and any more questions,
God bless.
Sandy? Any more questions?
Ladies, do we have any more questions?
Okay, so if we don't have any more questions, today we've covered several foundational aspects of financial literacy for women, from managing finances to effectively budgeting, tracking expenses, and setting financial priorities. Remember, the path to financial independence begins with education, as it is maintained through diligence and adaptability. Let's empower ourselves with those tools, the knowledge to build a financial secure future. I would like to thank you all for your attention. I am immensely impressed that you managed to stay through the entire 2 hours listening to me. And let's open the floor. Well, we already spoke about, I did open the floor for discussions and questions, and I really appreciate them, and they're all valid. And I will do my homework. I will also send some documents that Sandy will share in the groups, the various groups, so you all can do some homework for me and come in next week and let me know whether or not it benefited you all or not. And if you have any questions about the documents sample I'll send, please feel free to email me. So as we conclude today's session, remember that each of you has the power to transform your financial situation. It's about making informed choices, asking for help when you need it. Did you hear that part? Asking for help when it's needed. Don't wait when it's too late. and believing in your ability to manage your financial future. That's the other thing. A lot of us don't have that confidence in ourselves. You go to the bank cannot control whether you get the money or not. It's a set of rules and criteria they have. And if you meet it, you should get it. But can you afford it? So ask yourselves those pertinent questions. Let us make use of what we've learned today to build a brighter, more secure tomorrow for ourselves and our families. Thank you for your attentive participation today. And let's keep the conversation going. We are here to support each other, and together we can achieve financial literacy and empowerment. And I just want to thank you guys immensely, and I look forward to seeing you all on Thursday. I'll have some exciting things all around accessing credit and funding, and I know that's what everybody wants to know. But with that comes responsibility, and I want you to be able to acknowledge that. So thank you again, everybody. Have a fantastic evening, and I look forward to seeing you on Thursday.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you. Have a good
Daniel.
night.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everybody.
Good morning.
Good night. Thank
Good night, Ms.
you.
Good
Daniel.
night,
Good
everyone.
night.
Night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you.
Ms. Davy, thank you for tonight.
Yes, no problem. I hope you all enjoyed it. I did my best.
Yes, I did. I always do.
And I look forward to Thursday.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, then. Take care, son.
Okay.
Take care.
Night, night.
Bye-bye, everybody. Good night. Thanks again.
Good night.